to Mystery Unsolved. A little bit of a hiatus, if you will. Life gets in the way, but I am back. I like to tell you that Mystery Unsolved is better, but it's pretty much the same. Still me, still unsolved cases that I will delve right into. Like I said, it's been a while, but let's do this, shall we? The last case I did, it was a double feature. The MV Joyita, and Paula Jean Weldon. But tonight, on Mystery Unsolved, we will look at the disappearances within the Lake Michigan Triangle, which I didn't even know was a thing until tonight. But apparently it is. So without further ado, Mystery Unsolved, the disappearances in the Lake Michigan Triangle. All right, first things first. What the hell is the Lake Michigan Triangle? Did you make that up? No, I did not. The Lake Michigan Triangle, or simply Michigan Triangle, is an area of Lake Michigan where a number of disappearances, shipwrecks, and plane crashes have occurred under unexplained circumstances. Unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and unidentified submerged objects, USOs, have also allegedly been spotted in the area. The triangle stretches from Ludington to Manitowoc, down the Benton Harbor, and back to Ludington. The first major unexplained event began the disappearance of the French sailing ship Le Griffon. That's what it says. Le Griffon and her crew in the 17th century. Starting with the sinking of the Thomas Hume in 1871, shipwrecks and disappearances became more frequent. The first reported UFO sighting was in 1913. So anytime strange shit happens, they pretty much call that a triangle. Bermuda Triangle, Alaska Triangle, Bridgewater Triangle, Michigan Triangle. It's all the same. When strange shit happens, you call that a triangle. All right. We're not going to get into the concept. We're going to get into the explanation attempts and notable incidents. So let's get right into it. Many of the shipwrecks and ship disappearances in Lake Michigan have been blamed on wind waves. Due to the lake's elongated shape and position, its shores and parallel are unimpeded, allowing formation of dangerous currents including riptides and longshore tides. Additionally, the north-south orientation coupled with regular wind patterns allow waves to reach great heights. Another common theory for disappearances is the magnetic anomalies caused by magnetic declination and magnetic deviation. Declination refers to the difference between true north and magnetic north, which differs depending on location. On average, Lake Michigan deviates 4 to 5 degrees westward. Deviations are errors included in compasses by local magnetic fields. For example, if you were to hold a compass near a magnetic object, the needle would point towards the object instead of magnetic north. Although this would not be a problem in vehicles with other navigational equipment, it would cause confusion to inexperienced sailors and pilots. So this immediately brings me back to Flight 33. The planes, the pilots. There was like 4 or 5 of them, and when they were talking to the guy before this was in the Bermuda Triangle, and they were, headquarters was calling into him, and he was reading off numbers like longitude and latitude, and they were like, "What is he talking about?" That would bring him in the exact opposite direction. That's probably because he was reading magnetic north instead of true north. Same case with the Lake Michigan Triangle here. And it happens to a lot of sailors and pilots because you have to think to yourself, especially in the ocean. And I want to, before I get into the rest of this, I just want to touch on something really quick. Sailors, I would imagine this probably happens to a lot. The air I can't really account for. Maybe there might be magnetic. There could be, magnetic fields up in, the clouds and stuff. But just in the seas, the oceans, you don't know what type of metal's down there. It could rust, but even if it rusts, it's still perhaps giving off some type of wave that would totally be confusing to sailors. Hence the reason we have lighthouses. Conspiracy theorists have blamed the triangle on a negative energy vortex. Oh, here we go. Energy vortexes are the idea that certain locations emit sacred, powerful, and transformational energy. Although vortexes are typically considered to promote positivity and healing, it's claimed that vortexes with negative energy also exist. These locations are purportedly sources of danger and malevolence. Ley lines, areas that intersect ancient structures and landmarks, are often cited as cause of energy vortexes. According to ley line maps, one runs down the middle of Lake Michigan. Ooh. Others attribute the triangle's supposed vortex to a prehistoric structure under Lake Michigan discovered by archaeologists in 2007. The site is often referred to as the North American Stonehenge. You've piqued my interest article? Others believe the occurrences in Lake Michigan Triangle are caused by aliens, pointing to UFO sightings as evidence. And then they just drop the old, yeah, it's aliens. You know what sucks about the whole UFO and aliens thing? It's like, it's one or the other. There's no fucking middle. Excuse me. F-bombs, it's after 10. It's my own stream. Who cares? Well, I guess I will if YouTube decides to take me down for swears. So maybe I shouldn't swear. There's no middle. Okay? There is no middle for UFOs, in my opinion. There's either you believe it or you don't. And if you are in the middle, I don't know how you are. All right, notable incidents. Le Griffon. We are talking about it again, yes? One of the earliest known incidents in the Lake Michigan Triangle was the disappearance of the sailing ship Le Griffon and her crew on September 18, 1679. Le Griffon docked at La Grande Belle, present-day Green Bay, loaded 12,000 pounds of fur. 12,000 pounds of fur. That is a lot of fur. And set sail for Lake Erie. However, the vessel never arrived at her destination, and no confirmed remnants of the ship have ever been located. Some presume that Le Griffon perished in a storm. Others have theorized that the Ottawas, or Potawatomis, boarded her, murdered her crew, and then set her ablaze. So Ottawa and Potawatomis, I'm assuming those are referring to Canadian Indians, or Indians that were in the Canadian province. René Robert Cavalier, Sieur de la Salle, the ship's builders, was convinced that the pilot and crew sunk the ship and made off with the fur. There is no substantial evidence for any of these theories. I mean, it's 12,000 pounds of fur, so it ain't the craziest theory. Thank you for all this fur, and goodbye. Thomas Hume. On May 21st, 1891, the schooners Thomas Hume and Rose Simmons set off from the port after dropping a shipment of lumber in Chicago. Both ships were supposed to return to the Hackley Hume lumber mill in Muskegon, but after encountering a squall, the crew of the Rose Simmons returned to Chicago until the weather improved. However, the Thomas Hume continued on, disappeared along with the six sailors on board. I cannot read right now. Hackley Hume set a vessel to search for the schooner and offered a $300 reward. What year was this? 1891, $300 reward? Yeah, alright. But had no success in finding the ship. Theories arose as to what happened to the Thomas Hume, the most widely accepted being that she sank from the same storm that caused Rose Simmons to retreat to Chicago. Others include Charles Hackley believed that another boat collided with and sunk the schooner. Both are solid. In 2006, an A&T recovery employee discovered the sunken ship while searching for a lost United States Navy aircraft. She was found almost completely intact, preserved by the cold water 150 feet below the surface. The Michigan Shipwreck Research Association, because apparently that's a thing, concluded that Thomas Hume had succumbed to a storm, stating that she was too intact to have been rammed into by another vessel. Okay, so a storm just took it out. Rosabelle. The Rosabelle, or Rosabelle, was a two-masted schooner used to transport materials to the House of David in Benton Harbor. Between 1875 and 1926, she was found capsized twice in Lake Michigan, with no signs of her crews. In 1875, a car ferry crossing the lake discovered the schooner floating upside down. The 10-man crew who departed with the boat were never found. The ship was then turned over and returned to her port in Milwaukee, where she remained in service. In October 1921, the ship was ready to depart again with a load of potatoes and maple lumber. However, the ship's captain, Ed Johnson, refused to board the schooner. His son later stated that Johnson had a premonition that a disaster was about to occur. The crew could not convince Johnson to board the Rosabelle again, so they left without him. Days later, the ship was found capsized again, with no signs of her crew. The stern was missing, indicating that there was a collision, but no ship reported having an accident. The United States Coast Guard, which dragged the schooner into Racine Harbor, later determined that there was no collision. Bless that captain. If only the Titanic's captain had a similar premonition. George R. Donner. George R. Donner was the captain of the O.M. McFarland, a coal freighter, on April 28, 1937, Donner's 58th birthday. The ship picked up 9,800 tons of coal in Erie, Pennsylvania, and then traveled west through the lakes, bound for Port Washington, Wisconsin. The captain had spent hours on the bridge directing the O.M. McFarland through the icy floes. When they reached Lake Michigan, Donner retired to his cabin. It's late, guys. What do you want? Instructing the crew to alert him once the ship neared her destination. 3 hours later, when the vessel neared Port Washington, the second mate went to Donner's cabin, but found that it had been locked from the inside. Assuming Donner had gone to the galley for a snack, he went to the galley, but to no avail. The crew then began an extensive search for their captain, but it was futile. They eventually broke in the door to the cabin, but didn't find Donner. Donner was too large to fit through the two portholes in his room, and showed no signs of depression or suicidal thoughts. Local ports and ships searched for Donner in the water, but no sign of him was ever found. The hell happened to him? Like, wow, that's weird. That could be the creepiest one right there. The Flight 2501, which I will get to in one brief moment. I will pause for a slight intermission, which I never do, but it's just so I can check a message. I hate when I'm trying to open up a program and it's just kind of, come on, damn. There we go. On the evening of June 23rd, 1950, Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501, carrying 55 passengers and 3 crew, left the LaGuardia Airport in New York City for Minneapolis. Although a pre-flight review of the weather revealed thunderstorms and possible squalls along the route of the flight, it was not a great concern to the crew. However, to avoid turbulence, Captain Robert Lind requested to descend to the altitude of 4,000 feet instead of his assigned 6,000 feet. As the aircraft approached Cleveland, Lind repeated the same request, and it was approved that time. After severe turbulence caused another plane fall 500 feet while flying over Lake Michigan, Air Traffic Control, ATC, instructed Lind to descend 3,500 feet to avoid a collision with the other aircraft, to which Lind obliged. Later, Lynn and his co-pilot decided to steer south in an attempt to avoid storm activity. However, they inadvertently flew into the squall line. At 11:13 p.m., the plane made their last radio transmission, requesting to descend 2,500 feet. The request was likely made because the crew wanted to drop below the clouds to obtain more visual clarity. However, ATC did not grant them clearance because another plane was departing from Michigan at the time. Shortly afterwards, locals between Benton Harbor and South Haven reported hearing an aircraft flying low to the ground before witnessing a flash of light over the lake. Some witnesses reported hearing an explosion, although it was hard to differentiate between the sound of the thunderclouds. By midnight, radio operatives realized that the plane was missing. Plane missing. The next day, the Coast Guard discovered an oil slick and partial debris approximately 18 miles northwest of Benton Harbor. In the following days, the search resulted in the discovery of human remains such as ears, hands, and bones, a seat armrest, and pieces of upholstery. Whoa, here we go. A pair of child's pants, later identified as those of 8-year-old passenger Chester Schaefer, were also found. Officials needed to temporarily close certain beaches due to the amount of debris washing ashore. However, searchers have never been able to find any sizable amount of the plane or its engines. Most of the debris found was no larger than a person's hand. That's really creepy. Finding body parts and people's clothing. Authorities assume the aircraft crashed into Lake Michigan. Evidence recovered suggests that the plane likely hit the water in a forward, downward, to left trajectory at a high velocity. What caused the plane to crash has never been determined. The most commonly accepted explanation is that it was the result of bad weather conditions and the pilot's lack of visual clarity, which was stated when I read it the first time. Another theory is that the plane was struck by lightning, causing it to explode. However, none of the debris recovered had burn marks. Ha! That reminds me of Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, the infamous Twilight Zone episode with William Shatner, how he sees the gremlin on the plane ripping the wing, like screwing with the side on the side of the wing. And then, yeah, that's what it reminded me of. Conspiracy theorists have suggested that the plane was taken by a UFO, citing that 2 police officers in the area saw red lights hovering over the lake for 2 hours after the plane disappeared. Man, we got another one here. Hold on. All right, one last one. On July 3rd, 1998, we got semi sort of yeah, a more modern one, I guess. A bit more modern, Justin. Jeez, it's late. That's what I'm blaming it on. Donald Shaler flew a 2-seat Aero L-39 Albatross, a high-performance single-engine jet often used as a military trainer by Eastern European countries. Shaler, a veteran pilot, because that's got to be mentioned here, was planning on participating in his first air show for the National Cherry Festival in Traverse City, Michigan. In the passenger seat was Donovan Rodriguez, a flight instructor at Northwestern Michigan College since the 1970s. At approximately 6 p.m., Shaler radioed that he was 27 miles from the Cherry Capital Airport when he departed from it and was planning to return to the airport. Soon afterwards, the flight controllers noticed that the jet vanished from radar, and they were unable to make contact with Shaler. Coast Guard helicopters quickly began searching the area, but found nothing. The following day, a Canadian cargo plane and the Blue Angel C-130 Fat Albert joined the search. Wow, they even had a Blue Angel try to find, like, here, see if you can find him. Despite scouring, miles of land and water, no clues were found, and the search ended on July 9th. The cause of the disappearance was never determined. Michigan State Police believe the aircraft crashed into Lake Michigan, but are unsure what caused this to happen. The weather was calm. Both men were experienced pilots, and the aircraft was considered to be simple and reliable. The plane was also equipped with parachutes and ejection seats, although it's unknown if the seats were functional. One witness reported hearing a plane flying overhead, and then a loud firework-like sound. However, he never saw a plane. Later that year, an underwater search was conducted using sonar technology. It uncovered a 30-foot-long object that searchers believed to be the plane. The following year, divers confirmed that the object was a rock formation. Hey, is this a part of the plane? No, it's just a rock formation. Oh. The following year, in 2000... In 2008, another sonar search discovered a possible plane approximately 450 feet below the surface. It was next to a boat that sank in the 1950s. However, a dive could not be completed to confirm if the object was a plane, as the diver was not certified past 400 feet. All right. This one's a little different. If you've watched any of my videos prior, you would know that, I mean, again, it's the same in the sense of triangles: Bermuda, Alaska. I don't think I've done the Alaska Triangle, the Bridgewater Triangle. But a lot of disappearances of ships and planes. Now, obviously, it gives the theories, and really, the theories really come down to three things. It sank. When it comes to ships, number one is it sank. Number two, a storm hit it. And three, it was UFOs. Because of course, if UFOs are even a possibility, you got to throw it in the conversation, right? Fourth, I would say would be exploded. But if it got hit by lightning, it's either exploding or it's just messing everything up and it's sinking. But if the ship completely disappears off the face of the earth and they can't find any debris down, is it UFOs? What are we talking about here? Triangle ship. That's what we're talking about. And then, of course, planes. This is no different from the Bermuda Triangle. A lot of times, ships just get confused, hovering over the water. Sometimes they end up in the water. Sometimes they end up in the triangle, never to be seen again because the vortex sucks them up. Also, ships can also be sucked in by the vortex. So, we have a lot of theories here, a lot more than I thought, don't we? Number one, the ship just sank to the bottom of the sea, to the ocean, whichever. Sank in the waters. Two, lightning storm either just made it explode or put it to the bottom. Three, UFOs took it and abducted it. Four, got sucked into a vortex. It's no longer on this earth or in this dimension, whatever vortex is. Maybe we'll do a video on a vortex one day. I don't know. And then ships, kind of sort of the same thing, but maybe not really. First theory, ship gets hit by a storm, blows up, but we never see the debris. It's in the ocean, it's intact, it's been there for years. UFO took it. The ship went into a vortex, never to be seen from again. What theories do I think are true? As much as I enjoy and believe in UFOs, I'm going to go with the first two. One being a storm, or two, it just kind of sort of lost its way and it ended up in the bottom because it crashed. Some of them do. So yeah, a lot of similarities to the Bermuda Triangle and a lot of similarities in what happened to them. I think they can all really be, obviously conspiracy theorists are going to say it was UFOs. And I'm not acting as a conspiracy theorist right now. I'm acting as a reasonable, rational person here. Just giving out the information and then giving you my thoughts and opinions on it. And yeah, I'm going to obviously go with the most rational, reasonable theory, which is a storm likely took the ships and planes and just made them crash. If there's no trace or evidence of what happened to these people, as for that guy, that captain, I don't know. Was everyone asleep? Everyone was up there. They didn't hear a splash. They didn't hear him open his door. I don't know. I have no idea what happened to that man. I have no idea. That one is very baffling to me. Very baffling. I don't ask you what you think anymore because nobody really watches this, and if they do, it's on the playback. And if you really want, you can reach out to me and let me know your thoughts. This has been Mystery Unsolved, the disappearances within Lake Michigan. And do stay tuned for next week's episode, assuming it will be next week, as I will be talking about the Sarah Joe. That sounds like a ship. So we're going to be talking about ships once again. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this video on the playback. This has been Mystery Unsolved. I am, of course, your host, Justin the Avenue. Until next time.